we are here. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We've got everyone in the chat already waiting for this to happen. It looks like the teams are ready as well, as you can see. So we've got 3 teams here for our Eternal Kingdoms. First, Eyes on the Finish Line event, a race through heroic Ny'alotha. This is 12 bosses of pure action-packed shenanigans. I can't wait, especially because I know most of these bosses via mythic. So watch me call something out that is like, oh, watch for this mechanic, and it's like, oh, oof, that's actually in mythic only, never mind. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, my name is Nevs, or Nevek. You can basically call me whatever you like. And we've got Alessandra here, which if she has to get pulled in, you may end up getting just me only. But until that moment, it's going to be the 2 of us. We're going to try to make this work. We've never worked together, so we'll see how it goes. And
never ever.
Yeah, never. Well, okay, so we do Saturday nights. You know, we do the Saturday nights. It was a Mythic Plus thing, but you know, it's a little bit different from actually doing a bit of a casting thing. So we'll try to pass it back and forth. It's a lot easier if you're doing a casting gig when you're side by side with that person, because you can kind of give like visual cues that they can't see to be like, all right, you go now, and then that person just seamlessly starts talking. But when you're like here in this scenario, if I just randomly stop talking, it might take you a second to like realize, oh, that means me. Okay, I go, you know, so we'll see how that goes. Anyways, we're about 5 minutes away from the action. I believe we're starting on top of the hour. I actually did not ask about that, but from what it looks like, it does look like that. And we do have the nifty ability to go ahead and full screen as we need. I'm going to link one more last time in the chat. That is the stream that I'm using, actually, the multi-stream, if you want to actually have that up and kind of just have either like our voices plus your ability to min and max the screen. You can do that. Also, each of those 3 names right there, if you just do twitch.tv/ and use any one of those 3 names, that's how you get to their personal channel directly. So you can definitely do any which way you like. Jazzy Team seems really focused. They do actually. They were here like super early. I don't want to say the other ones weren't, but I couldn't see their streams weren't live for a good bit. But Jazz was not only here, but the stream was on like half an hour in advance. I don't know. So anyways, Ali, who do you think is going to take it?
Yes.
Do you have any predictions?
You know, it's really tough. I saw a couple of last-minute roster changes going on. Some folks couldn't make it, which is quite unfortunate. But it has stacked a couple of fire mages in favor of Wolf's team. And I believe that is 20-second pull timer is the name of his team. However, you've got 2 monk tanks on Jazzy getting carried, though I'm not so certain that's a great thing since Jazzy's one of the tanks.
Very true, very true. I also do want to point out, now that you mention it, so we have Jazzy's team, in case anyone is actually confused, and we'll probably have to remind every now and again, but Jazzy's team is on the top right, as far as mine, my stream goes. If you have your own, then I don't know. But on my screen, Jazz is on the right, top right. On the top left, this is Wolf's team, but we're not actually watching Wolf. And then on the bottom left, we have Palpatine's team, and we are in fact watching Palpatine and Jazzy on those particular vantage points. So again, I'll remind every now and again, because it's a little confusing when we say like 20-second pull timer. It's like, which one's that? So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and the streamer for that is Fail. That's a monk. And he plays on Empire. But my money went for this event to Team Easy Clap. That would be Palpatine's team on the bottom, mostly because he's the only one of the team leads that plays a Paladin, to my knowledge, and got to represent the pink. What about you? Did you put any money down?
I did not put any money down per se, because unfortunately in game I only have 4,000 to my name as of this very moment, so I kind of need that for repairs and such when I do Mythic Plus every day on stream. But I don't like to take the same name, so I'm going to go ahead with the top right here, Jazzy's team, because they were here super early, even with Stream On. That Stream On does help with that just making me think that they're really prepared. So I'm going to go ahead with Jazz's team. One other thing I do want to mention, and I did mention this in the pre-show just a minute ago, is that generally when I actually do any sort of casting, I usually do it for like arena, stuff like that. and it's super easy for me to see like what's going on in those UIs. So we're going to see what we can do the best we can when we have these types of UIs. It's sometimes I don't know how they mention, like how they set things up basically. So it is a possibility that I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, who's got the debuff, and they don't actually have it showing because they just didn't set it up that way. So we'll see how that goes. But I do want to, if it ever sounds like we're confused for a minute, it's probably because we're trying to adapt to their particular individual UIs, and all three of them have actually kind of different ones.
Or I'm just generally confused. That's possible too.
There could be a possibility. Like I say, this is going to be heroic. So I remember one time I went into, I think it was a re-clear of the guilds actually, and it was on heroic or normal. I can't remember that one. And based on the comp that they were like just building the raid and all this, the leader kept asking like, "Oh, do you think we need this? Do you think we need that?" And I just chimed in randomly via whisper because I didn't want to like, call him out or anything, or her, whoever it was. And I say, do you even think we're going to get past, Raytheon here? Because like we have a ton of DKs and like Rets right now. None of these classes move very well. How are they going to manage the little like debuff mechanic that like forces you to not be able to move unless you get a freedom? And then they were like, so that mechanic doesn't exist outside of Mythic. And I'm like, right, yeah, don't listen to me now. So
besides, you just mentioned there's a bunch of Rets and DKs, so the DKs are all screwed, but the Rets are just going to freedom themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Just have freedom on themselves, Although I wish they actually did that in Mythic Plus, I'll be honest. Like, I see them in raids and they do it all the time, like straight insta. They're like, boom, freedom. And I'm like, nice. But then I go into Mythic Plus and I'm like, freedom here, please. Please, freedom. Freedom? Anyone? Freedom? Hello? Freedom? I literally have 9 stacks with the slow in King's Rest. Anyone with a freedom, or even a cleanse, I'll take a cleanse. Nothing. Don't get anything. Super unfortunate. But what can you do? We are 1 minute away. I'm assuming again we're starting like at the top of the hour. So
yeah, we should definitely see those 20-second pull timers going up anytime now.
Would it be weird if 20-second pull timer actually pulls at a 30-second pull timer?
That would be interesting. What does the chat think about who's going to win?
That is a good question. I want to see at least one 60-second pull timer, even if it's like a troll and they reset it. I just want to see that. His mind is blown. We have blown this poor rogue's mind. I recognize him from the guild chat, actually. Hobble. It's weird how I remember people in like the guild when I see them in guild chat. I was telling the one guy that I talk a lot with him about Mythic Plus in guild, and I've always known him as the V Druid. There he is in red. I always call him the V Druid, and he's the first time he ever found that out was just tonight, and I was like, yeah, that's what I do. Someone name changed as well in guild once, and I was like, wait, which person are you? And they like gave me the name, and I'm like, oh, you're the E Druid, right. Okay, now I know.
We do have a lot of people in guild, and it does sometimes get difficult, and especially when people change mains or change their tune name. I'm like, wait, what? Who are you?
You know who it was? Is it pronounced Fire or Free Pixie or something? They like literally have the same name on Druid and Monk, and it was like, oh, clearly that's who that one is. So it's a lot easier to determine. Ali is my BFF. So V-Druid is your BFF, as he claims. That's a pretty big claim there. I like this. This guy has a meter. Oh no, they have a meter as well. Do we have a meter on the? Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm like blind. I'm just not seeing it at all. So we got meters on everyone. I like that because I'm definitely going to be interested to see who's like topping the healing and the damage meters and all that. So we got ready checks. We got ready checks. That could be a pre-ready check though, because no one else is doing one. But I like it. That's a good sign. It's definitely a good sign. Actually, TBH, not that I assume that they're going to do something or say something weird, but I'm going to change it, because it'd be really awkward if like someone is trolling or something in his chat and then it like blasts on mine like bad language or something. That'd be really bad. Alright, it looks like we're going to... 20-second pull timer on Team Palpatine. 20 across the board. Here we go. I'm excited. Who else is excited? Can we get some, like, excitement in the chat?
And screw up the pot, right?
That's definitely a Ret Pal. Do we have Ret Pals? I think... Oh, we do have at least one Ret Pal, like you said, on the on Palpatine's team? 100% Red Pal or DK is going to pre-pull. No, nothing.
Nah,
I didn't see anything. It's totally fine. We're totally fine. I like it. I like it. Okay, so with Raytheon, do you want to take to some of the mechanics and just kind of demonstrate what they are in case anyone actually doesn't know what heroic mechanics are on Raytheon?
All right, so first thing we've got going is you're going to see the red swirlies around people. They're going to have to run that out, and those would fall off away from the group. You don't want that in the group because it'll do a bunch of damage to everyone, which is not fun. And you also see the tanks dealing with the tank mechanic, swapping on a, I guess it depends on what they're comfortable with, but I think I see most people doing about 2 or 3 stacks. And they have the boss turned away from the group because you don't want to be dealing with the tail mechanic, as pretty much every dragon ever in WoW, gotta watch that tail.
Okay, so I'm just noticing something here. We're going to have to do mechanics ahead of time, because it's been a while since I've done a heroic run, especially one where we're actually trying to push for like a massive race. Because if you look at Fail's stream, and even Palpatine's stream, I didn't look at Jazzy's stream, but sweet monkeys, this boss is literally almost one-phased. Like, that is a lot of damage. Look at that, it's like 3%. That's insane! What are these guys on?
They are pumping. They want to win this race for sure.
I feel like these lot have definitely eaten their Wheaties this morning, that is for sure. I feel safe saying that. And we already have 2 deaths going across there. And there's the third. Alright, so that's a really clean kill on both ends. So I believe we're going to go to Skid Track. Pretty sure that's a safe bet right now. And let's already start talking about it whilst they are doing trash. Because I get the feeling, out of all 12 bosses, Skitra is going to, like, done. She's gone. So let's go ahead and talk about that now, before we get there, and we're like, oh, hey, boss is dead. So with Skitra, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I feel like with Heroic and Mythic, sometimes I botch which one has which. And I'm going to be honest, don't tell my raid leader, but when we did Skitra the first time, I actually had literally no idea what was going to happen. So anyhow, so basically you're going to start hitting the boss just like pretty much tank and spank, and she's going to summon an ad. That ad you have to run all the way out as far as possible. Now of course this is on prog, by the way. What I'm describing is on prog. What they might do is like, oh hey look, that ad doesn't do any damage at all, so we don't care to do anything with it. That's possible. But normally you're supposed to like run that out.
They're going to dump that on the boss for sure. I mean, maybe a couple of yards out, but at this point that ad is
that's what I'm figuring.
Like they just pulled trash. They just pulled trash on Fail's stream, top left.
Yo, it looks like Jazzy, I don't know if it's lag on my end or their end, but it did kind of go, oh, there we go. Alright, now we can see actually. So you're supposed to pull that ad like really far out. That's supposed to happen, and then you just kill it, go back on the boss, and then the really fun phases begin, which is you kind of get pulled into 2 different realms, and this is what I like to call the Sherlock Holmes boss, because then you have the task of saying, alright, we have all these ads that spawn, but only one is real, and whichever one appears in both independent realms, because only half of the raid can see some of them, the other half sees another bit of ads. Whichever one you both can see, that's the real one, and that's the one you want to blast in the face. And then the boss comes back, and you just basically rinse and repeat, and the job is done. I'm not even sure. Do you think we're going to get to the first phase like that? Or do you think this boss could just die, like, super quick?
It is possible. I mean, this damage is pretty on point, though it does look like the bottom left, Team Easy Clap, has decided to go to Mott instead.
Yes, they did.
Skitra.
I actually like this in a ways. I really do. I don't know why, but I've always favored going Mout first and then going to Skitra. Although, when you're progging, though, it definitely makes a lot more sense if you do Skitra first, as this is more of a free boss than Mout was. So you'd always go Skitra to get some extra bit of gear, and then go to Mout and you know, try to tackle that boss. So we've got actually only right now, okay, the 2 bosses there that are being engaged right now. So let's go ahead and do finally a little bit of a full screen for just a moment. So the ad over here on the left hand side, that moonkin that's like all purpley, that's your ad. It's not even that far out. It's like you said, they're probably only taking it a few yards out, and we actually do get a phase. So it's gonna, these markers here, this is what we're looking for to see how they're going to determine which one is the real one and which one is the fake one. Looks like they figured it out already. They seem pretty sure it's X. We'll find out in a minute. I believe. I strongly believe. And it's the one. That's it. So we're just going to rinse and repeat, and that's going to be all she wrote for Skitra.
Yep, this is a pretty easy boss. So I mean, do we even get the walls in heroic? The wall ads?
I think yes, but I don't think you get it. Yeah, there it is. That illusionary projection on fail stream. That's going to be your wall right there, I believe. So they do get it, but I don't think it happens very soon. Whereas in Mythic, I think you get it like almost instantaneously. You get like as soon as you go into the phase, you get that wall as well. So I'm not really sure why they didn't just because this boss is easy enough as it is, right? Like in heroic, why not just put the wall in there as well? But then you have the added choice of, well, how do we scale this up for Mythic? You got to do something extra. So I guess that's kind of where they went from it. But if we look on the bottom, though, we're going to get to Mount in a second, so I know we're kind of missing on the description of Mount, but when they kind of flip-flop, we'll cover Mount as well. But they look to be looking at putting their pools on the outside here, these little pools right there. They're doing a good job of it, because you can't stand in it, as it deals a lot of damage, and you can't do any like magic damage either, so you basically kind of ruin a lot of that damage if you were to like drop it in the middle of the group there.
But those pools are definitely very important as you see the annihilation going off. They want to be hiding in those pools, otherwise they will be insta-killed. So when that cast goes off, that's what those dark pools are for. So it is definitely very important that those raiders make sure that they know where they're at all times.
And as a melee, because I know you fancy playing red and you do tank as well, so that's both melee. I get a lot of times when tanks are like, oh guys, Annihilation's coming, and no one decided to drop a pool next to us. Nice! So then as a melee, you have to get into these pools so that you don't get like one-tapped by this Annihilation cast that she does occasionally. But then you have to like run halfway across the map just to get to one, and you may or may not make it in time. So that's always fun to have to do as well. But then again, if you're ready, just bubble it off. Why not, right? Just bubble it off.
Yeah,
Just like, whatever.
you can bubble it, but quite frankly, I hate doing that because when he goes into his obsidian skin phase, which we didn't really get a chance to talk about, but he does what I'll call thorns damage. If anybody doesn't understand that, when you do damage to the boss, he does damage back to you. And I tend to have wings come off cooldown right as he goes into the obsidian skin. I'm not going to hold that thing for 30 seconds. Are you kidding me? So that's where I'm going to use my bubble. So if I have to use it early, I'm super angry.
So wait, what you're saying is that when you go into that phase, as you call it, the Thorns phase, I like that, you actually intend to help your healers and trying not for you to kill yourself, essentially? Because I don't know, when I go into that, I basically just don't give any, like, you know what, and I just go full on hamtastic and I just blast the crap out of that boss, and I'm like, hopefully the healers can. I even actually one time on a reclear, I told our H pal, I was like, so I have no intention of slowing down, and he was like, no worries mate, I got you, beacon on you, and I was like, dude, I love you.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I pop wings, then I throw up my little mini shield, and then the bubble. And once bubble falls off, it's like cast, cookie, cast, potion, cast, pray. And hopefully we're out of the obsidian skin phase at that point, because otherwise, rip.
Now, since this is about a speedrun, I do want to point out something that happened about a minute ago on Palpatine's stream. So what they did, they went Mount first, and then they were going to go over to Skitra, but rather than run all the way back, they decided to just mass suicide essentially off the side. Because the reset or respawn point is actually the beginning of the dungeon where you kind of phase from the Raytheon kill. So they do that, they release, and they're back where Raytheon was, and then it's just like a really short walk over to Skitra. So it's actually a really smart play if, again, your objective is to do all the entirety of the raid in as quickly as possible.
You're going to see a lot of the suicides, definitely after they go down for Shadar, Drestagath, and Elganoth, just to come back up much quicker. They may even do a suicide jump off, although I think most of them are going to aim for the pool at the bottom. But there's definitely a lot of places where that is advantageous, and we are going to see all three teams using that strategy later on in the raid.
Okay, so that's a healing. I was checking to see, do we have any Shadow Priests? I don't know that we have any Shadow Priests.
I think there was one, but I don't remember which
Here we
team.
go. Crunch Priest is Shadow. So here we go. We've got Fail's team, 20-second pool timer going in pretty hard on Mount right now. I'm pretty sure you definitely can't. I mean, theoretically you could, but right now with the gear that everyone has, I still don't think that you can just, push it hard enough to one phase it. Maybe they proved me wrong, but I definitely think we're going to get at least one Obsidian. Now that I look at the boss health, maybe not. Maybe
Well,
not.
I think it's going to depend on what they do with the ads. When the ads come into the boss, he eats them, and you can see the bottom under his health. There is a blue bar. It's only at about 27%. I'm a few seconds behind on stream, so I apologize if it's higher than that. But he's gaining magic, and whenever they have the ads touch him, then he will gain it that much faster. And so if they hold the ads back, maybe they can one phase it. But I know most of the time
Yeah, they're
people
definitely
don't
going to
bother
one
doing
phase.
that.
I do like the plays that some of like the demon hunters and all that are playing or making rather. So what they did was they had some of these pools right behind them, and he's melee, so he's on the boss. He wants to keep doing as much damage on the boss, and at the very last second that he was about to drop a pool, he ends up doing his little fly over mechanic, the Fell Rush I believe it's called, and flew straight over the pool that was behind him to place his pool even further behind so it's not in the way. Like that little trick. But when you have mobility, I'm a Shadow Priest, so I'm completely jelly anytime I see any sort of class that has any more mobility than I do, which unfortunately is basically every single class there is. So yeah, I tend to get jealous quite often. So
Well, we're about ready to see second team take down Mott here pretty soon. And Skitra looks to be pretty low already as well. So we're all going to be at 3 of 12 here in just a few seconds. However, it does look like the top team
team
on the
fails a
left.
little bit in the lead. I believe that is a
Yep,
20-second
just a
pull
little bit
timer.
ahead.
They're just a tiny bit ahead, but it's anyone's race. These first bosses are like super quick, and you probably would never, even on heroic, heck, even on mythic, you'd probably never die or even wipe to any of these mechanics. That's pretty much always the case in most of these raids. If you think about it from like I try to think about it from a higher level perspective. No matter what even if I'm a heroic raider, I try to think of it as a higher level perspective, and that is basically that the first couple of bosses are your intro bosses. They're not meant to be that challenging. They're meant to have mechanics that you have to deal with. But even if you were to kind of mess one up, unfortunately, it's usually not that detrimental. You're not going to insta-wipe on those one. Whereas, let's say you go all the way to my absolute favorite boss, I say that sarcastically, Carapoche. If you mess something up, you're probably dead. We're going to be honest, you're probably dead, because that's way in the end there. Also, by the way, little fun fact, the best and most difficult boss right now is actually this lift on Fail's stream top left. I can't tell you how many times my team lead, don't say anything, but my team lead actually died to that. So it became a known thing that every time that we went up that lift and I got off, I literally just stood back and waited, because when she came up after distributing the gear, because that was her job, and she came up at probably about a minute after everyone else, she would come up and her character would just sit there because apparently like her game didn't see her up there, so she didn't know to move, and I would have to grip her, because if I didn't grip her, she would literally faceplant all the way down, and that never ended properly. Although we did get a really fun laugh at it the first time it happened.
Yeah, that happens to a lot of people. The elevator boss is no joke.
I can, for one, I can legit say I've never actually died to an elevator boss. I've been lucky. I must admit.
Did you?
I know not many can do
Did you raid an
that.
Argus? Did you raid an Argus?
Argus. So that's Antaurus. Yes, I did raid an Antaurus, and I did not die to that one either, because I have this idea that even though I see people doing that thing where like you stand under it and then the thing comes down and then it's like, oh hey, whatever. I never chanced it, even from day one, before I knew that was a thing. I never chanced it on any elevators in this entire game ever. And people have actually tried to like grip me, and I think one person almost got that, but I managed to like kind of see them prepping for a swap blast, and I legged it back a bit and he couldn't get me. So I was still able to hold my record intact of never dying to an elevator boss.
I've been gripped under the elevator or off the elevator so many times, but I mean, that's how it is, right? I've given in return. Don't you worry about that.
You know what I have died to actually? I died to this at least once. I this it was what's the one? The second to last boss from Jaina.
Oh, is it
Stormwall. Yes. So there's this little like hallway, like it's like a dock basically that you have to go through before you get to his platform, and it's pretty narrow. They even have like knock-up abilities and all this. But we cleared all the trash. Everyone was like, all right, let's just go. And I was AFK for a moment, just a moment. I come back and I start moving, and generally if you grip someone, I am familiar with the positioning on it, so I know how to like prevent myself from falling off a cliff, because I'm like, oh, I know that I will face this direction, and I just whip my camera around with my mouse. I move with my mouse, and boom, job's done. But they swap blasted, and at the time I wasn't familiar with how that goes. So when they swap blasted, I actually fell off, and if you didn't know, that water kind of almost like insta kills you. So that that happened.
Yeah, I know all about the water. Yeah.
So,
there's not a half dozen screenshots of that.
Looks like on the top left, fail stream 20-second pull timer team, that is 20-second pull timer, is chosen to go to the Zanesh wing. This is actually probably my second favorite boss. I just like it because it's a football boss, right? And I said it on for the record. I'm like, if you put me on the first person to do the orb, and I'm the striker, basically the one that like kicks it in, I probably will get up, remove my headset, run around the room like Cristiano Ronaldo, for those who don't know, is like one of the best footballers in the world, and act like I scored a goal, and then I come back, and if I'm dead when that happens, oops. So then basically I was put on the very last group and not allowed to actually touch the football at all, basically, until it was until it was like absolutely mandatory. So that happened.
I mean, that's a good way to get out of doing mechanics, right?
I never really thought of it that way at first. That's not why I did it, but hey, positives. You take the little wins. You take them. It also seems like Jazzy's team is going to be going to Zanesh, unless I saw incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure that's where they're going. Also, it looks like we have all three teams actually going the Zanesh route, which is probably quicker because it's like literally on the way. So why wouldn't you do it that way?
Yep, and I saw that they used Hero to pull trash up on 20-second pull timer, and they were just waiting for a boss respawn to start the fight. So you want to give a quick rundown on this fight, seeing as though it's your second favorite?
My second favorite, yes. So this fight is one of the two fights that are actually my favorite, and they both share one thing in common, and that is if you're not doing it on Mythic, it does seem a little bit lackluster, I will admit. So when you're not doing it on Mythic, you do not get ads. That's one thing that I will mention. Without ads, you don't have a kick rotation, which far complexes or makes this fight more complex, basically. So we don't have ads, but you're going to have a bunch of things like these. If you look on the top left, you get these pie circles or slices rather, so you can't stand in them. It's just periodically it's area denial. You have to move about this little like circular room, if you will, and you just have to deal with that. Second thing that will happen is random, I think 2 maybe 3 players will get chosen. I'll try to point it out when it happens. Looks like no, I didn't think that was it. Where basically you just kind of emulate this like fire aura, and you have to run it away, leave it over there, and then you run as far away from it as possible once it drops, because it's going to detonate and it's going to do a lot of damage to you, but only you. And then you also have this mechanic here where you get in these 3 little orbs, and then you've got this giant thing on your head that we can't see really anymore because they left. Only those players can actually kick this ball that's about to happen right there, that ball right there. Only they can kick it, and you can't let it go out of the boss room. You can't let it kick these little obelisk statues either, and you have to get, for a second I thought they were going to let that one fly all the way out, and you have to get it to the net, basically, if you were to think in football or soccer terms. And once you do that, job's done. You just keep on blasting the boss. And this is where I say, without the ads, it does seem a little trivial, because at least you'd have ads to deal with, but you can't.
So you have a kick rotation on top of a kick rotation.
Yes, you do, actually. You have a kick rotation on top of a kick rotation. I like that. And that's probably literally those 2 things are the most, relevant thing that wipes your groups. I actually heard something, because someone said that this boss felt just an annoyance as far as trivial and not really that good. they pointed out one thing about this, and they said that if you do, like for example, as it goes out of bounds, it actually blows up and deals raid-wide damage. Well, when it goes out of bounds, rather than just have it blow up and then deal the damage, have it deal the damage so that the healers have to recover, but let the orb just like kind of ping-pong ricochet back in so that you still have to deal with it, thusly basically putting a little bit more complexity to this boss, make it a bit more fun. I like that idea. I kind of wish they had gone with it.
That would be pretty neat. Oh, and looks like it's dead already up on the top left.
Mm-hmm.
And other two teams are pounding away at her, so we'll see which direction they head next.
Well, they have to go to Vexiona. It would be weird if they didn't go to Vexiona, then go somewhere else. So they're riding the lift up here on Failstream. They're going to go to Vexiona, right? Is this Vexiona that's there? Yes. They're going to be going to Vexiona next, as will the other two teams, because again, it's literally just right there. Take the lift that goes up, and then once you kill that, you're done with the wing. You go back to the normal room, or the main room, and you go to your next wing, and then we'll see where they choose. I suspect probably the Hive Mind wing, rather than go down, then back up, and all that, funky
I'm
business.
thinking Hive Mind will be the next way to go as well.
Exactly. So it still looks like Fail's team is in the lead. They've been in the lead since the third boss going down. That lead has seemed to actually increase ever so slightly than before. But again, any person's game. Once we get to Catapocha and N'Zoth, I don't know. I definitely think that's where we will see our first wipe or two, if we haven't seen one yet. And then Jazzy's team going ahead and cleaning up the Xanash encounter. Palpatine probably about 25% left. And everyone looks safe. Yeah, like I say, this boss isn't really much of a boss. As long as you don't mess up the orb, you have no ads. So yeah, it's like this boss is not really doing a whole lot of damage to the rest of the raid. Healer's literally just pumping DPS at this point.
So Vexiona, this one is actually a fight that I enjoy. I don't know why, I just do. So you start off with the dragon, and you've got an ad, which is kind of similar to the ad that's they're fighting right now up on the top left screen. And the tank mechanic here is, well, there's actually a couple of things going on. So you've got Vexiona to deal with, who is going to be putting some stacks on the tank. And then you got the other ad, which your other tank is going to pick up along with a bunch of other ads. And that little ball, that little orb on the ground, they can pick that up to get rid of their stacks, but also to blast one of those orb beams at the ads and kill them quicker, which is really convenient. So you've got a couple of things going on there. Healers have to keep the active tank, full on health. Otherwise, there's going to be some nasty raid-wide damage. And then you can't really barely see them, but there's people running out purple pools, and those you want to get out of the group as well. So between the ads, the boss, and the purple pools, I think that's most of this phase until she takes to the air. So do you want to talk about what happens in the air?
Yeah, I do want to mention the little circles here. They're area denials, hence why you want to put them off in the corner. More room to move in phase 2. And it looks like they're actually one-tanking, essentially, because I have not seen this debuff, because this is definitely a tank, and I've not seen this debuff go to anyone else, which usually that means that a taunt swap hasn't happened. So it looks like they're kind of one-tanking this. Now, when it goes all purple like this, you do reach at 40% the next and final phase. And what she's going to do, I believe the flying up mechanic is only a mythic only. So what she's going to do is essentially continue doing these little purpley circles that you have to run out. But there's this Heart of Darkness that also happens where she will literally blow up in like a nuclear radius type explosion. You just have to run away so as not to get hit by it. Or, I mean, you're going to get hit by it, but it hits less hard if you are the further away. The other final mechanic that's going to happen is you have to stand relatively close. Like, look how everybody is stacked super close to one another, because if you go out any which direction, if you go out on your own, you're going to get feared, and then that's going to run you in all sorts of directions, away from your healer, maybe onto a blue puddle that does damage to you. It's just a nightmare. You don't want to do it. Trust me, I've had it happen. It's pretty spicy. And actually, that's where priests come into really good play, because I've actually also helped a ton of people that have had that happen, and they're about to run into like some purpley goo, and I grip them right on back. They're still feared, but at least they're in a safe area.
They actually do have the air mechanic where she does her flybys.
Yes, so
it looks like they just DPS'd it that fast that they didn't have to deal with it.
I do want to I want to clarify. There is a fly up mechanic, but in Mythic, in that phase, she still flies up, but she spawns she spawns like a clone of herself. So she's still there on the ground, and you're still slapping her in the face, figuratively, obviously. But she goes up in the air as well. So now you have really a lot of area denial from the circles that you've been planting in the back the entire time. Also, she comes and does that little drive-by spewage, and you can't be there because otherwise you die there too. So you instead of having like 2/3 of the room to deal with in that phase like they are right now, you only have like half of that. So that's what I meant by flyby.
And it looks like Jazzy's team is about ready to finish off the boss. You can see everybody helping the tank soak that orb.
So only they're going to be doing trash now as on the way to Hivemine. I did confirm that Fail's team is going off to Hivemine. We're going to go ahead and full screen as Palpatine's team is still on Vexiona. They've hit that 40% mark where she phases. And and again on the right hand side you can see all the purple marks. That's the area you can't go to. They've placed it extremely well to ensure that they have all this space on the left to work with. But you see they still have to deal with it, so that they go out that direction. But if someone doesn't go with them, they have the opportunity to get feared, and that's never a good thing. But they seem to be handling it really, really well. No one really dipping too low. They do have a def on their side. I don't know where they have their CR counter. I'm looking around. I don't see a CR counter. Do you? No, I don't see it. So I'm sure they have one because I doubt anyone else died. But they're just choosing to keep blasting as hard as possible and beat down with it, and there they are. Look at that, we're actually right on to Hivemine. So if Hivemine here, we're going to have a 2-boss encounter, or like a two target encounter essentially. I like to call these twin bosses, and they pretty much are because they have to die at the same time, so that's what I refer to them as. And there's basically 2 phases. In one phase, you have to stack them, and when you stack them, there's no penalty for doing so. I don't remember if there's a benefit, but you basically have the benefit of just cleaving onto them and doing both damage. But what you do have here is one of these bosses, I believe it's the one with the K, he will cast a mind-numbing poison, which slows your casts, both your healers and your damage dealers that have a cast bar. They slow it down, which means less healing, less damage, and it also gives, I believe, an MS, which is short for Mortal Strike, which is a warrior ability that people commonly use to refer to anything that makes it so that you heal for less on that target. So all in all, you definitely don't want to let any of these abilities, these mind-numbing Nova, go off at any point in time. And then you also have these adlings. So you want to take that one away?
Yeah, so you've got a couple of different types of ads. You've got the Ravager ad, which I'm a little behind on the stream, so I'm not sure if they've killed or if it's even spawned yet. But they got a Ravager ad that one of the tanks will pick up and they're going to want to kill. Then you'll have a couple of other smaller ads. Those are already dead. Those left those green pools on the ground. And then they've got these flying ads as well. These flying ads are just going to fly around and cast. And they'll want to kill those, grip them in if possible, but it doesn't look like they have a DK. So just stun them, kill them. Because they're kind of annoying.
This is interesting here. I want to point out that Fel looks like he is lagging out of the game right now, so nothing is literally happening on his screen, and he is unsure. He is actually hands off the keyboard, scratching the back of his head. Probably the spiciest moment we've had so far today, but I don't think that one person being out of the fight is going to actually do anything. They'll probably have a CR ready for him and waiting should he have died, but maybe the healer is just pumping him right now and making sure he doesn't die. So we'll see what happens once he logs back in. He's having a good laugh at it. And we have Palpatine's team approaching Hivemine, and we have Jazzy's team having already begun the fight. So we'll go ahead and full screen there. I just saw just before I full screened, he actually got up off his chair, so it might be taking him a minute to get back in.
Yep, so again, we've got some of these ads coming in. There's also going to be some little, I'll call them roly-poly ads. You've probably seen them going across Fail's screen before he got DC'd. But the little roly-poly ads, you're going to want to sidestep those. They're going to come out of little eggs on the ground. And at some point in the fight, you may have to separate these 2 bosses if you haven't killed them quick enough, which is pretty difficult to do. And you're going to have to be separated and fighting them separately. Now, most of the time, you want the group to be somewhat stacked together for lots of cleave on all these little adlings, things that you don't want to have to be chasing around the room. However, there is another mechanic where everybody kind of has this purple swirl around them, and they all want to be separated for that. So and that you'll probably see that mechanic coming up very shortly.
Two things I want to point out. One is someone also got DC'd from the game around the same time that Fail did, and is having difficulty getting back in. So I'm hoping that the login server isn't broken in some way, preventing them from getting back in, as that would be super unfortunate. I also want to point out most bosses. So DPS and healers, they tend to have a bunch of mechanics. Sometimes that only DPS have to worry about, sometimes only healers have to worry about, sometimes they both have to deal with. So they typically have a lot of stuff that's happening at any one moment to have to deal with in a boss encounter. But tanks, I feel like tanks don't always have that luxury, do they? And sometimes all they really have is taunt swapping. But here on this boss, and I want to say on Mythic as well, I do not recall any time that our tanks had to taunt swap. You basically say, I've got Tekaris, I believe his name is, and the other one says, all right, I'll get Kazir, and you all you have to worry about is bringing them together, putting them away from each other, and that's basically it. There's no taunt swaps. You have your boss, and that's all there is to it. So you might say that's cool, unique. You might say that's boring. Hard to say, but that's probably why that's probably why there's only so many tanks. Because it's like, oh man, it's super boring to play one. I know I wouldn't want to.
I have enjoyed playing tank in a number of situations, but yes, this raid boss where you don't really have any mechanics that are particularly going to kill you, and the bosses don't get swapped, it is extremely boring. The only thing you really have to do is pick up the Ravager, which the Ravager can do quite a bit of damage, actually more so than the bosses. Pick up the Ravager, interrupt the boss. That's it. And you're right, take them apart from together. It is the most boring boss in the entire instance, in my opinion. And
as a tank, at least.
Yeah, as a tank.
Would you say as a tank at least? I didn't mind it that much as a damage dealer or even as a healer, because again, we have a lot of mechanics that we're trying to dodge, deal with, and all that kind of bit, and at least as a Shadow Priest, I have two things that I can dot and just keep them going, and I'm like, oh man, I love this. One of my favorite, not the top two, because actually, so one was Zanesh, because I thought that was pretty cool, and I got to be very meme-like with my running about like a football player, but also I like Drastagath, even though probably not a lot of people are going to share that. Now, if you look up here in the top left, Fail is back in the game. Hopefully, the other person that was also ousted from the server, I'm trying to see if this team has it, but they could be using a different name than what they set in chat up with. I'm also getting lag from them. Oh, he's back. But they're going to be fighting Raden, which is just above Hivemind. That is the next boss they'll be dealing with. And this boss is actually a very short yet kind of intriguing boss, especially on Mythic. There's a lot of mechanics, but even on Heroic, they do exist. I'm going to toss it to you on this one as well, because one of those bosses that I forget all the mechanics.
Well, first of all, I will say as a tank, this boss is a lot more entertaining because you've got the boss and taunt swaps there. You also have some ads coming in. So as the orbs come in, there's a Void Orb and a Vita Orb. And actually, if you check out Jazzy's stream here in a couple of seconds, you'll see the orbs coming in. Let's see when they spawn here. Oh, there they go. So you'll see two. They'll choose one to kill, and the other one will touch the boss, and an ad will come out as a result of that, out of one of those two portals. So depending on what ad comes out, if you get the Void ad, the tank needs to pick that up, and you'll see those purple circles on the ground. You'll have to bounce those back and forth. People will have to soak them, one person each. You can't soak two in a row because you will take a crap ton of damage and probably die. So you gotta wait until your debuff falls off. But that has to be handled, as well as that Void ad being killed. Now, if it was the lightning one, it's a very similar mechanic to the soak circles, except it is a line of lightning that will go back and forth between the two farthest apart players. And you don't want to be between that lightning line. So they put up the orange and yellow markers there so that people can line up to bounce that lightning back and forth. And we'll see that with the next orb set. In between there, like I mentioned, some taunt swapping. But the real fun, I believe, is in phase 2 for the tanks, because he does this mechanic where he hits you at full energy, and then you take a dot depending on how high your health was when he hit you. So you're playing the health bar game. You don't want your health to be too high, because then you're going to take a really, really nasty dot. but you don't want your health to be too low because then you just might fall over when he hits you. So it's kind of a balance and a communication with your healers. On top of that, you do have these orbs, and they're not orbs, but purple swirlies on the ground to avoid. And you can see some folks are getting targeted with this lightning and they have to run away from each other. So those extra mechanics in phase 2. Am I missing anything?
No, that's about it. Although I do want to point that in Mythic there's actually a mechanic where you get this like debuff that drops you about 50%, and then if you get topped off, you basically get executed, right? And I've been waiting to see, like, as we re-clear that for fun, not for like, oh, we want to re-clear it as quickly as possible because we want to get back to Ny'alotha as quickly as possible. But I fully expect that palas of all kinds, that when they're in the group with us, they're going to just pick someone at random and then lay on hands them to execute them. And I'm going to laugh. Even if it's me, I'm just going to be like, that's brilliant. That's actually brilliant. Also to point out, one person mentioning chat, I did think of the text layover, like putting the names like here or something like that. But anytime I do something like this, then you're going to have the name here, and then like the name here is kind of what I felt. So I opted this time. If we do more in the future, I might do something like that. But I opted this time not to do it because if I full screen, then you arbitrarily have these names everywhere that just stick around. Because either I do every time I full screen, I have to hit a button to remove it, and that gets a little complex. But again, this is more of I literally signed on to do this like a day and a half ago, so it's we're trying to throw it together as best as possible. Hopefully it's working well, best even with lag and all that, and someone got DC'd and everything, so hopefully more in the future. Yeah, I do hope so as well. I do kind of enjoy this together because I actually like competitions of all kind. I have competed actually in StarCraft and World of Warcraft in the past, and that's really like the absolute most fun that I like. But even watching it is actually super, 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 super fun. Anyway, so here we go to my other favorite boss, right? Are they going? Wait, hang on. Where is Fail going? Is he going to Drastagath first, or is he? Yeah, Drastagath. There he is. Yeah, this is my other favorite one. Again, I'm a Shadow Priest. This is the kind of fight that I like. But a little fun fact, this is actually what I thought back when I started signing up for Mythic raiding. This is what I thought was going to happen in every encounter I experienced, that it was going to be mechanics flying at you from all directions, and you got to dodge everything, and you got to keep doing damage, and oh my god, it's going to be mass hysteria. Didn't turn out to be that way. Still fun for me, but this is literally why I like it, because I'm like, oh, this is what I envisioned. So with this boss, as they are the only ones I believe encountering, yep, looks like they're the only ones starting it now. So you have Drastagath in the middle. You can't actually hit him, although it's hilarious if you tell people like Asa Rogues or Fire Mages to pop Vendette, pop Combustion, and go fully ham at the on pull on the boss and see if they do it. And I have seen that in the past. It's pretty funny, but obviously you don't want to fully troll them. Tell them afterwards, yeah, never do that again. That's just, it's a rite of passage. But you can't actually damage him. How do you do it? Well, you got these tendies that are everywhere in the room, and each one does its own thing. Some only melee can hit, like this guy right here with a smoke bomb. Only melee really want to deal with that. Casters can hit it too, but that's like they get there when they get there. The other ones typically casters deal with, because if melee go there, they kind of get messed up quite a bit with, I think, an MC, I believe, is what they get. But when you kill these tendies,
the eyeball we can handle, but that maw ad, the one I guess he just turned away from, that was on the left, that's one that I'm only gonna go after that if there's absolutely nothing else up and I'm bored, which happens a lot in this fight, which is why I don't really particularly like this fight.
That's unfortunate. Looks like Jazz is actually already engaged on Drastagath as well, with Palpatine's team. Assuming that they go in it now and not like skip to Shad first, it looks like they'll be starting as well. But once these tendies die, you pick up this Ichor that you can see on Fail Stream, and then you just go straight for the boss. Just non-stop damage on that boss, because you've got about a 15-20 second window where your damage will not be healed up by the boss, thusly dealing true damage, and that's what you want. Now, typically speaking, when you're doing this on prog, you want to basically map this out, because it would be really, really awkward if your Asa Rogue has already used Vendette, and then he picks up an Ichor, goes to the boss, and is like, yeah, I've got no damage, guys. Why am I picking that one up? I don't know. So that's really, really suspect. You want to try and time it as best as possible, where you've got your Vendetta, your Combustion. Basically, you're not a Shadow Priest, and you actually have damage cooldowns. Yeah, there's no jealousy there at all. And then you get the Ichor, you get to the boss, use your cooldowns, and just actually slap. That's what you're trying to do as best as possible. And that's what basically they're doing. Like, you see as much damage being funneled in with Fel, with his, I think, 3 seconds left on his Ichor buff. And once he is done with that Ichor buff, he's going to go back to doing other things as soon as they spawn, because right now they're not there. But as soon as they spawn, he'll go back to doing those things, because he can't actually... Well, actually, the boss is so almost dead that you could probably kill through his self-healing, as they literally just did, yep. So if you get the boss low enough, despite him healing himself every like 3 to 5 seconds, you could do so much damage that you could actually kill him just before that heal, and it still works. And that's the strategy they did. Get him super, super low, and then just not care about mechanics and just keep blasting.
So it looks like, what is it, Shadar is up, so is that where they're headed to next?
Yes, you have definitely. I would probably do Shadar, then jump down, because you're already halfway up the... I don't know what you call it, the pipe, the chamber, whatever. You're already halfway up. I don't even think you can, actually, now that I think about it. Il'gynoth's door doesn't open until you full clear the rest of the wing, so you'd absolutely have to. But even from a speedrun point, if you could, via some sort of cheat or skip or something, if you went all the way down, then you have to kind of go up, and then it's just like, that's like a time waste. So you definitely go up the ramp, kill Shad. I mean, it's probably one of the freest bosses in this place. And then you drop back down, do Il'gynoth and the final 2 bosses. Now on this particular boss, I actually, when we progged through it, I'm Shadow Priest, but when we progged through it, they actually subbed me back in for this boss as a Disc Priest. So I actually have 1 kill in this tier as a Disc Priest, by the way. Just a fun fact. Now, would you like to do the mechanics of this boss?
Yes, Shadar, this one is another favorite, mostly because it is great for all of the melee classes. So you basically stand there and beat the crap out of him. You gotta avoid those little purple pools on the ground that spawn every once in a while. And there's an Ichor kind of thing that will come in, and you will see it fixate to a player. And you're gonna want to make sure that you get that guy out of the raid when you run into him. You can see Chaotic actually just had the beam on him, so he's going to want to run away from the raid and run into that Ichor. There is also going to be a cone that you saw Shadar do, and there's a couple of really neat mechanics in here for tanks and healers as well. For the tanks, we've got the Taunt Swap, which, if anybody's familiar with Grong or Ursoc perhaps from last expansion, it's kind of similar to one of those. So you really got to make sure that you're tank swapping properly and quickly. Otherwise, your co-tank is going to go down pretty quickly. And then for healers, you've got a poison that is going to be cast on players, and it's going to hurt quite a bit. So you're going to want to be spot healing specific players. Now he's going to go through a couple of phases, phase 2 and phase 3. It looks like they're into phase 2 now. They're going to have some purple orb things to soak. You're going to continue to see some of the other mechanics, and as they move into phase 3, instead of having purple things that they put on the floor, he's going to be putting green on the floor, and you can see the green now.
They're dropping really low. Ooh, and someone goes down on Fail's stream there. Let's see who that was. It looks like a druid, but a tank actually. A tank had gone down, but he gets CDR'd almost instantaneously. There was only a lag delay, that's why it took so long, but in the game itself, it was actually instantaneous. So I don't think that's going to actually do anything to them. They're going to be able to kill this boss pretty smoothly, all the same. Just that druid has no buffs now, so that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but that tank swap mechanic is no joke. You got to make sure that one's right on point, otherwise you're going to have trouble. And it looks like Jazzy's team is also moving through Shadar very quickly. And Mark's team at the bottom there, they just started not that long ago and are proceeding through phase 1.
They did lose their shaman early in the pool. I didn't catch how, but she did go down early in the pool and she got CR'd or combat resed. If you haven't guessed already, I do things kind of EU style. In America or NA, they say B-res, and EU, we say CR, combat res. So sometimes I catch myself saying CR when I'm like, oh, they probably think, what's that? It's not, like, they use it for current rating, I'm aware, but we've always just said CR for like combat res.
I can tell you that I did just watch a Warlock totally take one of those purple pools to the face but I'm
Ooh.
guessing they were in a damage window because, well, their health didn't move anyway because they're a
Yeah,
warlock.
yeah. They're
But
a warlock. And it's heroic. Sometimes you do know when you can take a hit, and sometimes you know when you can't take a hit, even on heroic. Because your gear, that's the thing. Raids get nerfed in two different ways, typically. One is you get enough gear that you now have more health, that one-shot mechanics no longer one-shot you. Also, you have, like, higher armor, higher, well, that's pretty much it, armor and stamina. The other one is that Blizz will actually say, you know what, 100 teams have killed Mythic so far, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to nerf it down so that the next set of teams that might not be able to get it as is, they can have their try at progressing for this boss. So typically any one raid, even at current, even when it's current, is going to endure two different types of nerfs. So if you know that you can take that hit whilst, maybe Demon Soul, is it Dark Soul, Demon Soul? Demon Soul, I think it is. If they're Demon Soul Chaos Bolting, I probably too would say, you know what, I'm going to stick with this cast, make sure it goes off, and then move. So if I'm half health, it's okay. I'm not going to die. I've got Health Stone. I've got like a ton of things that I can do.
Risk reward, trying to win, and it paid off.
Now everyone's getting to the point where we're now going to the bottom three bosses. Obviously some have already begun, but this is where it's going to start getting spicy. We've seen a handful of deaths on each team, I believe, at this point. No wipes at all, but at this point we might actually see a wipe. It's possible. These teams have been playing pretty well, actually. I don't see it happen. Or happening, I should say, but it is feasibly possible that a wipe could happen if someone were to, maybe put a beam where it's not supposed to, or something of that sort. So this is where it's going to get a bit more spicy, and this is where it's going to get a little bit more chaotic. So we're here at Il'gynoth, and you've got these circles, as you can see on Failstream. That's kind of interesting because you can't be in other people's circles because it deals damage. Once again, though, this isn't Prague, so maybe you can dance a little bit in someone else's circle and not matter. I think even when it was current and we were progging it on heroic, I was even able to take some damage from someone else's circle and it didn't hurt. As long as you get out of it as quickly as possible, it's not going to hurt you that badly. But that's one of the mechanics. The other mechanic here, you're going to have these beams that drop these little circles. Well, it depends on how you drop it. You could make it a circle. It could be a line, anything. It's like literally like Etch-a-Sketch, or if I said that right, Etch-and-Sketch. And if you run over it, you take damage and you get silenced. So you don't want to be over it. That is for sure. And finally, the other mechanic of relative note is that every time that you drop Il'gynoth, not kill him, but just drop him, and you go into this intermission phase, as I like to call it, as you can see, both Fail and Jazzy Stream, you're going to be attacking these organs, and you have to kill all three, one at a time per intermission phase. So you're going to get 3 intermission phases, but you kill all 3 of them, and then for the 4th and final time, like Groundhog's Day, you're actually going to kill Il'gynoth, and he's actually going to go down for the final time. I think they've gotten all 3 on Failstream, so this is the final time that they're actually going to down Il'gynoth and actually get the kill. I can't see how many organs are up for the other 2, so we'll see, but looks like Fail is going into the final 2 first.
I think Palpatine's team just put down the first organ, and I don't recall if that was the first or second organ for Jazzy's stream, but we're going to find out here real quick as they down Il'gynoth again, and we're going to find out how many of these organs pop up.
That is true, that is true. There's also an interrupt thing that does have to happen. If you don't interrupt it, you're going to get more of these little like glob adlings that you kind of have to deal with, because if they enrage and you kill them, they do a whole lot of AoE damage, as I remember. Again, more damage during prog. Maybe they can sustain it now, but you probably don't want to risk that kind of thing. So either A, make sure you get your kicks, right, so they don't spawn, but if they do spawn, make sure that you get them before they enrage, as that will only make things a bit more spicy than it needs to be. And they should, I think I'm pretty sure Jazzy has killed their 3rd and final one, so they're on their final attempt at Il'gynoth. Yep, there it is, it goes down. And if we look on Palpatine's side, it does appear that he has the UI that shows the organs. I'm pretty sure he's got one more organ to go, and then their team will also be killing Il'gynoth for the final time. So we're off to my actually least favorite boss, Carapace, which will explain the mechanics.
Or Carapace for the rest of us.
Or Carapace, yes, that is true, that is true. So we'll go ahead and explain the mechanics. So there's going to be 3 phases. I actually think phase 3 is probably the coolest. And phase 1 is actually pretty cool in Mythic, but it's like Drestigath, where if it's not on Mythic, it's kind of like subpar trivial. So what happens in phase 1 is you're going to be hitting... how do you say it? Not Carapace? Carapace. So you're going to be hitting Carapace, and the idea is to push him to phase 2. I believe you have to drop him to 60%. Whilst you're doing that, you're going to get a bunch of ads spawning from time to time. One of the ads is an actual tentacle comes up. It's like an eye tentacle, and it zaps you in the face, doing damage. And you just kill it. That's not too life-threatening. And then the other one is going to have 2 of 4 spawn locations are going to spawn these giant tentacles that go up in the air, crashing down. Yes, if you are underneath it, it is a one-shot. And then you have to kill a bunch of pustules that grow on it, and then it goes away. And you rinse and repeat until you get the boss to that 60%. Now, in Mythic, you get everything simultaneously, and that's where I find it's a little bit more fun, because it's just a little bit more challenging. But in Heroic, you're only going to get, I think, 1 eyeball tentacle at a time, and you're only going to get, as I said, 2 of the 4 giant squishy tentacles that will one-shot you at a time. Then we go to phase 2. Would you like to handle phase 2 as I try to see what's going on over here?
Well, phase 2 is, I find phase 2 to be the more boring phase, to be honest.
I agree.
Phase 2, your team either stays together or chooses to split up left or right as you run up one of the 2 ramps, Gahoon style, which we all still have PTSD from that. So you run up one of the 2 sides, and there's these little pustules on the wall, and basically you kill them. And when both sides are done, you're going to want to go back down to the boss, which typically people will use their cloak, which we do have to talk about the sanity during the last 2 bosses. But you'll use your cloak, and then you'll come down to the boss. And really the only things you gotta do is make sure that if you've got a little purple circle around you, that you're out of the group, and you avoid his cone mechanic. Other than that, it's a pretty boring second phase.
And you can't move. Your movement is slowed to almost nothing. And as a priest, we don't really have sprints, that good sprints, I should say. So you already feel like you're moving slow. And if you ever get a slow on you as a priest, you're basically crawling everywhere you go. It's just excruciating. It really is, in my opinion. So that's another reason why I didn't like it. And yeah, there is going to be sanity. As you see here, he actually monitors his sanity way up here. So every time he gets pretty low, he's going to be wanting to use this guy right here, which is basically his cape or cloak, which is, I think, a 3-minute cooldown. So you can't just, mash it. You have to make sure you're using it at the correct times. More on that with Ny'alotha, because there is some timing things you want to make sure with that. And then in the third phase, in non-mythic, you don't have anything obstructing your movement in that room. Usually there's a giant, not giant, but there's a little pustule wall that kind of makes it hard for you to cross. You don't have any of those. In Heroic and below, it's a clean room, but you have all the other mechanics, which is periodically he'll have everyone have that fear bomb that's in this phase, which we didn't mention yet. So you get this little circle around you, and it blows up, dealing damage in that third phase. And then ads spawn from it. So that's where it's cool from a Shadow Priest perspective, because I get a lot of ads that I get to cleave off of, and you see a lot of shadowy apparitions that I just call the boys. They start coming in and having some fun as well. And then you also have the tentacles that come in and crash down, squishing you down, that you have to avoid. So there's a ton of things going on in that phase 3 that does make it a lot of fun. The only downside, I feel, is that once you get there, you do the work in phase 1 and phase 2, and it's like you're rewarded with a really cool phase 3, only he dies almost instantly, and it's like, oh, darn, I didn't get to spend enough time in that phase.
Well, it's kind of a good thing, though, that he dies quickly in phase 3, because he also puts that purple junk on the ground. And,
Seems we may have lost her, perhaps. But we have here Jazzy's team has actually started on Carapace as well, or Carapace, dealing with these adlings now that they come down, and doesn't look like they squashed anyone. Yep, look, everyone seems alive. Now that we're getting actually into Carapace and Ny'alotha, I do want to point out one thing. So none of these teams have probably min-maxed. Obviously, because you'd have a lot of hunters. Okay, yeah, Jazzy's team does have a lot of hunters, but I think that was just the random draft being pretty nice to them, giving them a lot of hunters. But you're going to have things like DPS Shamans, you're going to have Rets, you're going to have things like that. No flame to those players who play them. I play a Shadow Priest, I get it, I'm not great on N'Zoth, I'm not great on Carapace, but you're going to have these classes that aren't, are really well designed for these bosses. And typically when you are raiding, or even Mythic Plus, when I see a Ret, when I see a DPS Shaman, especially when I see an Enhanced Shaman, I think, oh, I as a healer have to babysit these classes. It's not the player, it's mostly the class, because unfortunately Blizzard didn't really think to give Shamans, especially DPS Shamans, much of a kit as far as defense. In fact, I do remember seeing Halinka saying on a live stream that he thought that Shamans have a really good defensive toolkit because they have Ankh, so they can resurrect every 30 minutes. That actually was something he said. So unfortunately, they take usually a ton of damage, and Rets take a ton of damage, and if they don't have bubble, they could just fall over. So usually when I'm seeing these raids, I'm looking for my DPS Shaman. I believe we've got one here that you can't see because now that overlay is there. But I think we've got a Ret was down here somewhere. I tend to try to watch them because you never know when things get spicy and they fall over, and that could be something that leads to one team falling behind the other. You never quite know. So we're going to phase 3 with Fail's team. Jazzy going into phase 2, doing the very much a waddle. It's like a penguin waddle. If you ever see, I either consider it a penguin waddle or it's basically like a Terminator walk. It looks funny to watch when you're really that slowed, but they're going to be dealing with it in pretty much short time here, actually, killing each growth relatively quickly. You'll also note that one side has the growths spread out, whereas the other side has 2 groups where they're clumped together. So you may want to consider that if you're doing your own group. Hey, maybe they cleave better, so you want, stacked up targets. So you want to put those classes on the ones that have stacked up. You want to put the other one that doesn't really care about cleave. Like Shadow Priest can do well on the spread side because we don't need to cleave. UA lock's the same. So you may want to consider that kind of thing. But Jazzy's team is going to be able to steamroll past that part, use their heart to get back, and now they're back on the boss, and I believe at 40%, they will transition to the phase 3, and I would say about 50% is where they're at, so they just need 10% more. And we have Palpatine's team also in phase 2, trying to clean up these growths, not really taking too much damage, and that's also something you don't want to watch out for. If the team doesn't take all that much damage, what are the healers doing, I wonder? Are they maximizing the amount of damage that they constantly could be doing so as to get their team in the best possible position to get the W? I don't know. I'd actually like to see where the damage meters are at, but we can't see that far down, as unfortunately they would not be on the top. And if we look finally at Fail's stream, he is downed Carapace pretty easy. Like I say, phase 3, boom, 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 just done. It's like the best phase, but you don't get to really see it too much. And now they're going to be on N'Zoth. So we'll see from them. We can. Welcome back.
Did I disappear?
You did disappear. I was like really scared for a moment because I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder what happened. But no, we have, I don't know if you can see stream, we have Fail's team is basically on N'Zoth. They're about to pull probably any moment now once the RP ends. And we have phase 3, and almost phase 3 from the other 2 teams, so they're right on their hind legs. So this is what I'm saying, where it could go either way. If Fail's team does happen to indeed live up to his name and actually fail, any other team could actually take it from here. We'll see. We'll actually see. By the way, I don't call him Fail because I think he fails. Someone in chat said we can just call him Fail, so I thought that was like his nickname, and I'm just doing a play on words. That's what I'm doing. No flame there.
No, we all call him Fail. But yeah, so that would be team 20-second pull timer, getting ready to pull N'Zoth. As the other 2 teams, Jazzy getting carried, just cleaned up Carapace, and almost there for Team Easy Clap. So yeah, this is where it could definitely go sideways, because they start off downstairs, and they've got the Psychus ad, and they're going to be killing these synapses so that they can put this debuff on Psychus, make them easier to kill. They're going to want to be interrupting the mine rack, as well as watching out for that anguish on the ground, the nasty purple stuff. And once they are all done, they are going to want to go back to their bodies and use as many cooldowns as possible on N'Zoth to get his health down. They're going to go into the next phase, which is going to be some tentacles to kill. They're also going to have to deal with a mechanic that will either drag them towards the boss or towards the edge of the room. So I want to make sure that they are in position for that. And I think that's the next mechanic coming up here on Fail's stream.
Yeah, looks like it.
I'm like behind. Yep, as soon as
you're behind, I see.
Yep, and then of course the tentacles, like I mentioned, they're also going to have to be dealing with an ability called paranoia, which is going to link people together, and you're going to want to get with your teammate and not be running through each other's paranoias, because as you see, you do lose sanity this fight, and if you do go insane, then you become MC'd, and your teammates will have to kill you, which is always fun. But
you do get a damage increase, though. There is that. Like, that's some benefit to doing that. If you actually, once you are like in this in-between phase where you're going to get MC'd, but you're not quite there yet, you actually get like a 30% damage increase. And I believe Team Limit, the world first holders of this boss, everyone intentionally lost all their sanity so they can get into that moment in that phase, so they can hit Ny'alotha as hard as humanly possible, so they can down him in that little phase, because they were about to run out of room, as I remember it. So it was pretty much either you kill us or we kill you kind of thing, and they decided to all go insane simultaneously so they could push just hard enough to get the job done.
Yep, and it looks like Jazzy's team there is also nuking Ny'alotha right now, as they've come up from their first Psychus. After they kill some tentacles, you'll watch the team split up, as you're seeing in the top screen and Fail screen, and half the team will go down and do a second Psychus, and half the team will stay up and deal with tentacles, and then we'll go through this twice, in between still doing all the same mechanics we mentioned earlier with killing Ny'alotha when the shield comes down, doing the ability that either drags you towards the boss or away, and also dealing with the paranoia as it comes up. And then we get to go into the second half of the fight, which is super fun. You want to explain how the second half of the fight works?
Okay, so in the second half of the fight, you're going to be facing, or the shield, I should say, of Ny'alotha is going to be down entirely, so you're going to be able to do as much damage to him as possible. But unfortunately, that's not just all that's going to happen. And in fact, we see it now here, Fail's team, Team Wolf, 20-second pull timer, is actually on the second push phase on Ny'alotha, and you're going to be seeing it here. So again, if they don't wipe, it looks like they're going to be taking it here today. And just before we get into all that, if we look at their sanity, I believe everyone is in the okay right now. Actually, the worst being 35 on one of their damage-dealing monks. So not really any concern there. They should be able to make it, and they should have their hearts coming back up in roughly a minute or at most 2, at which point they'll be able to manage their sanity even better. But once you're in that phase and you're able to hit Ny'alotha, you're going to get these ads that occasionally spawn, and there's going to be a soak mechanic. Now, generally in Mythic, you only want so many people soaking it because they have immunities, and it just nullifies the ability. In Heroic, I've actually seen a handful of different ways of dealing with it. Some people say to everyone soak, and then eventually no one soaks, based on whether they're going to kill the boss yet or not. And then once the ad spawns, you basically want to cleave. I normally hit Ny'alotha and cleave onto the ad because it's usually better for me, but some might do it differently. They might actually focus that one particular ad down entirely. And then eventually they'll have this mechanic that spawns on every one person, where you count it down from about 5, and once you hit 0, you're going to drop this little thing on puddle underneath you that will radiate outward. You want to drop it as much together as possible, and then you want to leg it either left or right, predetermined, depends on the team. And once that happens, when it spreads out, that's area denial. So you can't ever go back there, can you, right? So you want to make sure that you keep that all together as possible, kind of like in Vaxiona. Otherwise, again, you can make it so that the room gets really, really small really, really quickly. And imagine like healers on one end, tanks on the other, damage dealers everywhere else. People just die haphazardly, and it's actual nightmare. So you definitely want to make sure you're painting that as close as possible. We do have, I think it's a stream error. I don't think that he's actually lagging. I think it's just a stream error of some kind from Fail's end on my side. Uh-oh. Do we not have his stream anymore? Oof, that's not good. Let me see if I can try to re-implement his stream here manually. Shoot, I actually have to get this. See if I can do this quickly. Where is he at?
Hacked.
You broke it!
Is it up? Is it up? Let's see.
Doesn't count, doesn't stream.
Hang on. They know. They know. They know they went down. They know. Okay. Oh, he's down on his channel too. Well, we managed to get it back. It's a little bit flipped now. So Palpatine's top right. We've got Fail actually bottom left, and we have Jazzy top left. So it is a little bit flipped around, but we got him back. That's the important part. We got him back because he's going to be pushing into that final phase here momentarily, and that's what we want to make sure we keep an eye on. So let me full screen one more last time here. Again, everyone's, I mean, it's a little flipped around, but the worst person as far as sanity goes is still pretty much 30, just high 20s, low 30s. And oh, actually Gambit going really low. Oh my god, he's down to 7. Does he not have his heart? If he doesn't have his heart, we could see someone that is, or maybe it's intentional even, that's going to be going to the side of N'Alotha, getting fully corrupted. Maybe he does not have his mythic kill of N'Alotha, because once you get that mythic kill, you get uncorrupted title, which pretty much makes you immune to this. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I think it makes you fully immune to this ability, right? If you have that title, doesn't that make you fully immune?
I seriously doubt it, but that would be cool.
Darn, I thought once you had that title, you never had to worry about that mechanic again. Otherwise, why would you be uncorrupted if you could be corruptible?
You know, I'm still trying to figure out why I'm fighting N'Alotha anyway. My team's still wearing that stupid circle, for headpiece from forever ago that never did anything ever. I mean, I'm not wearing anything. I don't know what you're talking about. Shh. I
am as well. Here. But as we can see on the bottom left-hand side, we do have a winner, ladies and gentlemen. It is Team 20-second pull timer, which is led by Wolf. And from the point of view of Fail, I'm going to point it out that neither of us, neither you nor me, actually picked Team Fail or Team 20-second pull timer as our bet. So we were completely wrong, actually. But I also want to point out that we could have a small little one-on-one right now. If my team wins, I still had a better outcome than you did. Just saying. But we do, in fact, have a victory here. It is 20-second pull timer. Let's see, though. We do have, again, Palpatine's team is about halfway through. Well, N'Alotha's health is 50%, but that's kind of misleading. It's not actually indicative of where you are in the fight. And obviously, we see Jazzy's team is actually already down. So, by the way, my team won over us, too. But we're not going to worry about that right now because we're going to go ahead and full screen Team Palpatine right here. And we're going to see where they are. It looks like they're on the second down phase. This is probably my favorite phase as a Shadow Priest, because you can actually dot all these tentacles, and once you even though they do recover their health, yes, but you dot all these tentacles, and then once this guy goes down, you have a nice lucid proc going into the up phase where you're pumping as much damage as possible into the Zoff, and it actually leads to Shadow Priest being the third highest, last I checked about a week ago, third highest damage dealer on boss damage on the Zoff. So we're actually not as bad as most people think. But once we get out of here, if I'm correct, they will be on the latter stage here, and they'll just be handling the extra adds, the pools on the ground, and things of that nature, and they'll be on the closing steps to get the kill here on the Zoff.
So it looks like they do have one shaman down. And everybody else looks pretty healthy. A couple of people, 30 sanity, 38, but everyone else is looking to be pretty good. And here we go, stage 3. So this is the last bit.
Look at this damage. That boss's health is just melting right then. Like, look at that. I think they started when it was approximately 30%, and they're down to 10 already. 6. 5. It's going to happen. I think it's at 2%. Wait for it. There it is. We got the kill. In third place, we have... What was it? It's Easy Clap. Team Easy Clap. It is Palpatine's team. So once again, we have Team Error, this network error, please try again, taking first place. And we have Jazzy's team... I can't remember their name, taking second, Jazzy getting carried. There you go. I forgot the team names completely. And then Team Easy Clap, Team Palpatine, Team Star Wars taking that third place. That was actually a pretty fun race. I kind of expected it being a little bit more of a challenge. I guess I haven't done heroic in quite some time that I didn't see it being like some of those bosses going down that quickly. Like when we saw Raytheon going down, I mean, yeah, the first boss, that's probably obvious that he would go down that fast, but I just legit, I remember we were chatting about the mechanics, I look up and I'm like, oh my god, this boss is literally 10% and about to die. Like, what's the point of even going over mechanics now? But that was pretty good.
Well, I mean, all of these players, of course, all have their AOTC. They're all, really good players. Many of them mythic, some of them even having cleared mythic N'alotha at this point. So we had a really, really good player pool to pick from. So I think all the teams deserve to give themselves a good round of applause. And I think all the people who put this event together as well. I mean, the team leads, of course, Jazzy, who's filling in for McStein, who had to take care of a family thing last minute. Palpatine, Wolf, the other two team leads, as well as all of the people who actually put the event together. Ny'alotha, Major, Jazzy, Iron, Wario with the absolutely beautiful advertisement banner. I mean, really, just tons of people went into putting this event together, and if I missed anybody, I'm very sorry. But also, of course, the alternates, the players. So great event all around, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the next one when we go into Shadowlands.
So true, so true. That's going to be really fun. I've actually not seen any information outside of those covenants, but more specifically, I mean, like, I haven't seen any information as far as Mythic Plus dungeons or raids or anything. So it's still pretty fresh for me, but I definitely can't wait to do it. As the first raid tier in most expansions,